Ratalaika Games has been on a roll lately. They've been releasing a lot of games for current generation consoles, but the stuff I really like seeing from them are the retro re-releases they've been doing. Recently, they put out Lancer and Gainug, Wings of War, however you say it. We covered both of those games on the channel in the past and looked at the Switch versions. If you haven't seen those videos, take a look. I'll put a link somewhere for you. I mean, they were pretty cool and reasonably priced, just like the game we're looking at today. And with all those releases, including this one, the games wind up, coming with some pretty cool quality of life features and extras, including some of the best scanline options I've seen for a retro game being brought to, current generation hardware. These aren't just your typical, like, hey, here's a retro game being emulated, play it. No, they put in some extras, so it's pretty cool. And now they are re-releasing a classic PC Engine CD game, Moto Roader MC, for the Nintendo Switch, PlayStation, and Xbox for $6.99 US on February 25th, 2022. So pretty soon here and reasonably priced in my opinion. They did send me a copy of this game early for purpose of review, and I got a few things to say about it, both positive and a little negative. So this game, it originally released in Japan only for the PC Engine CD back in 1992. And then way later on, in 2017, the game was re-released on the Wii U Virtual Console, again in Japan only. So this appears to be the first time the game is officially, being released in the West. And it's an interesting one, especially if you're a fan of games like RC Pro-Am and Rock and Roll Racing, as this is a top-down, racing game. But it's got some cool things going for it, a little bit of a twist, right? So on the Switch, Moto Roader MC supports up to 5 players locally. If you don't have anyone to play with, you can play against computer-controlled opponents, but the computer can be pretty tough in this game. I'd imagine it'd be a lot more fun playing against your friends and family. Unfortunately for me, I only got to play against the computer for this review, and man, do I suck at this game, or I did initially. It didn't really get in the way of my enjoying the game. A lot of times I do find, like, if I play a game that I just suck at and I'm no good at it, I give up and just forget about it. But this one, I did feel a little compelled to play every track and, get used to the controls and just try to get good. Yeah, I'm making a review video of it, but hey, there's been games I've reviewed where I'm just like, I ain't into this, and I just give up on it, and I, do a quick, like, pass or play type of video. But this one wasn't like that for me. Eventually I got the hang of things, and I really started to enjoy it. But that's not to say everything was positive here. So there are 25 tracks to play on this game, and it's not a simple, like, drive in circles for a set number of laps. You also have weapons to slow down your opponents, which the weapons are unlimited, but your opponents can also use these same weapons as well. So everybody's shooting missiles, dropping bombs, that kind of thing. But all the racers, yourself and the computer-controlled ones, are invincible, so attacks are just meant to slow you down. No one's going to get destroyed and disqualified out of the race in this game. There's also hazards on the tracks, like there's a stage or a track where there's a train, like train tracks, and a train will come through occasionally, but it's also a little shortcut area, and if you could cut through it just right, you can, cut down on some time there, but you got to time it properly to not get hit by the train, because then you'll just get, like, juggled up in the corner type of thing. So there's a lot of that. There's hazards and shortcuts, and then there's boosters to speed you up type of thing. Some of these tracks, I mean, they look really neat. There's different themes for all of them, like kind of like a fantasy theme, city theme, that kind of thing. And I think they did a pretty good job with, how colorful and nice looking the tracks are. I mean, it's a retro game, but they do look really good in my opinion. Now, on these tracks, it can get quite hectic, especially when the paths are kind of narrow in some spots and everyone's shooting missiles and getting juggled around type of thing. It's a crazy one. Now, in the game, you have, several modes. I think the one I was just talking about, where you just race against people in whatever set of tracks you choose. You also have a time attack mode, which is pretty self-explanatory. Just, try to get a better time type of thing. And then you also have the Omaki Mode. This mode, it's a 2-player soccer type match. You can still be shooting your missiles, doing all that kind of crazy stuff. and it's just one versus one. That's all it is, and it kind of reminds me of Rocket League, but just an extremely, very simplified version of Rocket League. But it's pretty fun if you got 2 players, as the mode doesn't appear to be playable against the computer, so you got to have another human to play this one. That's part of one of my criticisms with the game, unfortunately. I mean, that's the way retro games were. You had to be in the same room to play, but in this day and age, it's a little harder, I think. You know, so overall, I think the game's really good. The music is okay. The graphics really look nice. There's a lot of different options for the display options. You could stretch it out. You could have a widescreen mode, all that kind of stuff. Everything that you're accustomed to with these Ratalaika games releases, they've implemented here as well. And, you know, this is a game I think I would have been interested in back in the 90s if it came out in the U.S. You know, but unfortunately, as I've already kind of hinted to, I do have some criticisms with this game and the release in particular. Now, one thing that's kind of, it's just the game itself. It's not the release necessarily, is how the game controls. The game, you know, the game's controls can be changed up a bit with the options that they've given you. But no matter how you set it up, it can be a little difficult no matter what option you choose and how you steer your vehicle. It took me maybe a handful of races to get used to the sensitivity of turning, and then probably close to 10 more races to really start to get it down. Not the biggest deal in the world, it's just something you get used to, but I could imagine some people giving up early on it and not giving the game a chance just because of the controls. The steering, that's really it. The steering just, it can be a little finicky, but you got to get used to it, you know. It's just the way the game was made back in the 90s, but at least they did put some options here to give you a choice on how to control the vehicle. So that's kind of good and bad, I guess, you know. Like I said, though, I did get past all that with the controls, and eventually it wasn't really a big deal, but it is something I had to bring up. But my main criticism is with the release itself. Not the original game and the way it plays. Like, that's just kind of a side thing for me. It just seems like this game would have been so much better playing against other real-life human beings, real people. Playing against the PC is fine for some quick gameplay here and there, but it does get a little old. I mean, once you play through the tracks, there's 25 tracks, so there is a lot of variety. But, you know, the computer-controlled vehicles are kind of cheap, you know. And these days, I get it. It may be a little more difficult to get people together to play a game like this all in the same room. Or perhaps you just don't know enough people. Maybe you don't know enough people who like retro games and are willing to play with you. I don't know. But it just feels like a missed opportunity to add an online multiplayer mode to the game. It would have really made the game shine, in my opinion. But in the end, like, I kind of have to take a step back and realize the game is a fairly low-priced download at only $6.99, $7. So I suppose at that price point, maybe a little much to expect a feature like that being designed for the title and implemented. I just think it would have been cool. I mean, and I still think the game is worth checking out if you like retro top-down racing games. But overall, I mean, it could have been that much better with online multiplayer. I just have to say it. But if you're interested in this game, I still think it's a good one. It will be available on the 25th of February, 2022. If you're seeing this in the future, it may already be out. Really do appreciate you guys. Let me know what you think, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye.